Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 8th Annual Empowerment Experience. I hope that you are ready for an amazing panel with some of the top African American entrepreneurs in the city. We represent here so many different kinds of businesses and so many different kinds of backgrounds and experiences, and I am really proud to bring the individuals to my left to you today. What I am going to do to start off this panel, the entrepreneur's journey from hustle to power. That is the name of this panel. And if you listen to me on Reality Check, you know that this is not my normal voice. But as the entrepreneurs must persevere, so must I today, and the show must go on. Can I hear a round of applause out there for these Black-owned businesses? Yes. The 8th Annual Empowerment Experience here at the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church is such an important event because it really puts the spotlight on African American entrepreneurs. I'm Tanya Pendleton from WURD Radio, and what I am going to do is I'm going to pass the mic to the entrepreneurs and have them introduce themselves and tell you what their business is all about. So to my left is Will Williams II. Will, go ahead and tell us who you are and what your business is.
All right, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'm representing the Business Center located at on Germantown Avenue. And what we do is we help take your business to the next level, no matter what stage that it's in. Whether even if it's just an idea in your head, we can help you go from an idea in your head all the way to a business that is doing well, and even help you get loans to where you can take your business to an even larger level. So that's what we do.
Well, that is extremely important. Here is a representative from an organization that can help you get your business funded, which we know is probably the #1 challenge for any entrepreneur. Next to him, we have Zachary King. How are you, Zachary? Tell us who you are, what your business is. Everybody, just make sure your mics are turned on. So
that will help, right?
Yeah,
Good.
The same thing.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Zachary King. I'm the host of the podcast, The Future is Female, which talks about Black women empowerment through entrepreneurship. So we've been doing that for about 3 months now. And in the 3 months that we've been doing it, we got over 40,000 views.
Congratulations. We certainly can appreciate that. Thank you so much. Now, Tanya T. Morris with Mom Your Business. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Good afternoon, Tanya Morris, Mom Your Business. We support Black and brown female entrepreneurs through education, resources, and capital. Since 2021, we've helped founders raise over $500,000 in capital through grants, low interest loans, as well as pitch competitions. So thank you for having me.
$500,000 in capital. Let us give Tanya T. Morris a round of applause for that. So not just being an entrepreneur and really focusing on your own business, but entrepreneurs can also help other people with theirs as well. Now we have Marquise Devon Richards. Tell us who you are and what your business is.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Marquise Devon Richards. I'm the host of the Keeping It a Bean podcast, where I believe conversation can build community and empathy through storytelling. But not only that, I am also the new founder of a coffee that I'm launching called Leroy's, named after my Pop Leroy himself. So that'll be coming in February.
I love that. Joss Duncan Asay. She is the founder, executive producer, and publisher of Love Now Media. Joss, tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, thank you. I'm the founder, and I've changed my title to CEO to kind of shorten all the things. But yeah, I'm the founder of Love Now Media and Love Now Magazine. We're an empathy-centered media company focusing on multimedia journalism, education, and documentary films.
Well, let's start with getting the origin story from each entrepreneur, because I think that is a good way to find out how they got started in case you are thinking of starting a business as well. So let's start with you. You are representing businesses, but how did you get your start at the Business Center?
Okay, so I'm a bookkeeper. I actually went to school at Widener University, and I got my degrees there. I got an MBA and a master's in business process innovation. So what I was trying to do is start my own business, or
Yeah.
okay. So what I was trying to do was start my actually just get a job. And at the time, I wasn't getting any. I was trying to go into a new industry, so I wasn't getting any callbacks. I was getting ghosted. So once I graduated, I said, okay, I'll start my own business. I actually went to SCORE, and what they told me was to start my own business, I need some experience. So I couldn't get my foot in the door. So I was kind of stuck in a little rut there. So what I did was I found a way in by going through bookkeeping. So now that I have, now that I am doing your accounting, your internal accounting, I built a trust. Now I can cross sell. And so that's what I was trying to do. That's the goal. So I'm a cross sell you. So now that I'm doing this, I can also sell you this service as well. And as far as my bookkeeping journey, I came across the Business Center through a colleague of mine, Ron Williford, right there. And he is the president of the Business Center.
So you know what I love about that origin story? What I love about that is that you found your way in really through education and through having a skill set that you could then utilize in order to get involved with the Business Center. So I think that is a great lesson for people, that if you can't find your way in directly, you can find your way in through education. You can find your way in through utilizing a skill set. Zachary, tell us your origin story.
All right. So after spending 8 years in prison, while I was incarcerated, I became very conscious of I got a little girl, 14 years old, and I just became very conscious of the women that I would want her to be like. And I absolutely hate the way that our women are being portrayed in the media. Every time you turn on social media, we ain't doing nothing more about having this gender war, we're fighting. So I just really wanted to do my part. Instead of just complaining about it in the barbershop, I just wanted to do my part to change that narrative. So what I do is I sit women down and we just talk about their struggle. On my platform, you see that it's me talking to them, but you don't see me on camera.
I saw that.
And the reason for that is because I wanted to focus on them and their story and not me. I want to shine light on whatever it is that they're going through. I make an argument that the reason to why Kamala Harris had a hard time is because they didn't know how our women was going to be. They see the images on television, and it's like that's not the image that represents strong, black, intelligent women.
Right.
So I wanted to change that narrative. So that's how I got started.
Well, much respect to you for that, Zachary King. But let me ask you too. A lot of people do not think that coming out of previously being incarcerated, there are a lot of obstacles in the way. How were you able to overcome that? Because that's a story that could be anybody's story, really.
Right. I believe that the moment you go to jail or the moment you're in prison, you automatically become an entrepreneur, because it removes the stigma of having to wait for somebody to give you a job or wait for the opportunity to come. So it's all on your shoulders. I feel like the moment that you go in there, the only thing you should be focusing on is the law library and what you're going to do when you come back home. So that was just pretty much, I wanted to be that change that I wanted to see.
So once again, getting an education, if you
Absolutely.
are incarcerated, that could be a way for you to be able to overcome those obstacles once you are back out in the community.
And can I add this? For those who got family that are incarcerated, the only books you should be sending them is stuff that's going to help them for when they return home. Anything else, all that stuff, how to learn how to play chess and all that stupid stuff that brothers want to get in there, don't ever do that. The focus you got to focus on.
Chess could teach you a few strategies.
Chess could teach them some patience, but we just want to really hammer that home. That I feel like, because it's two-part. A lot of times people think that brothers, when they come out, they need to be doing that, but their family also need to be conscious of them things as well.
In terms of the support that they provide, sure. So thank you so much, Zachary. Tanya, tell us what your origin story, entrepreneur origin story is.
So, I used to be a reporter in my former life and written for just about every publication in the city of Philadelphia, the New Observer, the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, the Daily News. And from that, I started writing books. So I've self-published 3 books. I used to own a t-shirt company with one of my mentees, and I was also doing events, always doing some type of events. And when in 2017, we were doing an event, and we called it Mom Your Business. And so after the event, we put together a brainstorming session to kind of figure out what it was, because we didn't know what it could be. And so we put together a brainstorming session from the event, and decided that we were going to continue to support Black and brown female entrepreneurs, mostly because so many of my friends were just so frustrated with where they were as it related specifically to capital, and not being able to access the capital that they needed to successfully grow their business. So they were just frustrated with just the growth and the opportunities and networks. And one thing, and I don't want to get ahead of the game, but one thing that is, and I was talking to Ann Turner earlier about this, is that Black women in particular, in the professional world, are over mentored and underfunded, and so that's what we really wanted to try to change that. And so that was really our story, and we started really, I like to say, between a layoff. I was working full time at Cheyney University, working with funders all day, with founders all day, to get access to capital and to get their businesses certified. And got laid off from Cheyney, and in between that and the pandemic, Mommy Business was born.
You know, it's interesting. Sometimes it is it's challenges that breed entrepreneurship. It's figuring out when you've had a layoff. It's figuring out when you have something crazy like the pandemic, something that nobody anticipated happens, that people are able to find their best entrepreneur opportunities. Marquise, tell us, what is your entrepreneur origin story?
Oh man, it'll be 8 years ago in 10 days that I started a podcast and being in this space. But it was just because I was irritated with the status quo, honestly and truly. So I'm originally from Reading, PA. I went to Susquehanna University to go study theater and broadcast journalism. And every single time people come up to me, they're like, how you go from Reading and how you gonna do that? How'd you survive? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dog, it's not that bad of a place. Like, all right. But I had realized, I was like, oh, I'm agitated with how people are able to perceive everybody without actually engaging in a meaningful conversation. And so I'm the first of my family to go to college. And so for me, I was just like, oh, I'm gaining all this knowledge. I come home, I'm like, it's time to dismantle white supremacy, patriarchal capitalism. And my brother said, what are you talking about? And I said, oh. And so he gave me the challenge of like, dog, if you believe in all this stuff and you can't communicate with me who doesn't have a high school diploma, are you actually doing the work for the people? And so for me, I was just like, cool, how do I bridge academia in the hood? And so I did that through podcasting, because people don't want to be preached at all the time, but a conversation does incite people to want to change and give them the ability to make it accessible. So for me, I continued on in this podcasting world and continue to grow, got awards, all that good stuff. But like, for me, it was like, how do I continue to give back to my community outside? Because my day job, I'm in education, college access work. But for me, I was just like, how do I continue to cause change and hit a critical mass? And for me, it's always been through that. So I would like to complicate the narrative around Black masculinity, complicate the narrative around who do we deem as intelligent, who don't we count as intelligent, who do we forget in our community? But I give the tools through conversation, which then ultimately led of like, oh, I'm not a great employee all the time.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm just like, all right, how do I get to exist in a world where I allow other Black men and Black boys to bear witness to like what's possible? And so I'm just like, how do I continue to live in my authenticity? I found it through coffee. And so I'm not bougie about much, but I'm bougie about coffee. Okay. And so for me, I'm just like, how do I always keep Folgers with me, but I also been able to taste luxury coffee as well. I'm just like, oh, I can taste different things here. And so for me, I use it to honor my Pop Leroy. And that's why it got its name, Leroy's, as the coffee blend's debut name. And then from there, I hope people can also honor and preserve legacy in the ways in which like I get to honor and preserve my Pop-Pop's legacy through coffee.
Wonderful.
Nice,
Thank you
brother.
so
Nice.
much.
Yeah, I love that.
Joss, what is your story?
Yes, first I just want to acknowledge how inspiring that is,
Right.
Marquise. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I share so many similar aspects of that journey. I think for me, I was that young girl growing up in North Philly who figured out how to make $1 out of 15 cents. And I truly would, buy 15 cents worth of penny candy, figure out how to sell that at school, make $1, get my friends on board. And, at 11, I started to work at my Church Credit Union, Jones Tabernacle, AME, for those, who know Jones Tabernacle. And by the time I was a teenager, I was helping to get teenagers in my neighborhood summer jobs because I started to learn how to access things and how to distribute resources. So I think learning and understanding how systems worked and how you could kind of create little entrepreneurship frameworks in order to make resources multiply. Understanding that at a young age, when I went to Temple and got a degree in business with a concentration in IT and then got a job in IT, I just felt like that work was too small for for everything I had learned how to do and had been nurtured to do. And so that's how my entrepreneurship journey began. I actually started more so as an artist. My first entrepreneurial endeavor was being an African dancer. I started an African dance company and figured out how to, get my one home girl to make the costumes. My other one was a choreographer. We got enough money to rent the space, sell some tickets, and that's how we ate, And so that turned into then saying, well, the dance is great, but people need to know the stories behind the dance. And so I started to develop my film and video skills to tell more stories. And that ultimately led me to being able to receive, I would say, mentorship, but build alliances with some very powerful Black women. Maori Carmel Holmes, who founded Black Star. I was one of the first people when she said, I'm starting a film festival. I raised my hand to volunteer. Ava DuVernay, before she was the celebrity she is now, when she was starting her first film endeavor, I was one of the first people, on her volunteer staff. And so I learned from those people how to maneuver certain things. And then in 2018, Sarah Lomax hired me full time to come and be the program director at WURD. So I got to have that firsthand look at Black women entrepreneurs doing the thing. And so I have been working full time for Love Now Media for 3 years. And we have raised about $2.5 million in that 3 years. I have a staff of 6 people. We produce a magazine. I'm just really proud of what we've done. But all of that comes from being in North Philly, 16th and Master, figuring out how to make $1 out of 15 cents.
You know what I love about the panel so far is that we're getting the story of people who basically took advantage of the opportunities that were presented to them. And you're getting a sense that education is a thread that runs through everyone, but also community. All of these businesses are businesses that seem very focused on the community. And what you do, Will, is obviously focusing on the community and helping them to get resources. So tell us a little bit about how community played a role in you being able to advance your business.
Can I
Sure.
Yeah, the reason I want to start is because when you talk about community, I just want to, and I said this at our gala celebrating 7 years a few years ago, one of the most influential parts of Mom Your Business was our relationship and being a part of a community called Black Girl Ventures, which I was introduced to by Josh Duncan. So that's how we began to really build our community even now. And so that led to really the inspiration for us to continue to be community building. And community building is really about creating an opportunity for folks to access opportunities. That's really the way that I see it, is really being able to create ways to access opportunities. So when our founders come in the door, a lot of times we say, I sound like a gangster because I say I got a guy, or I got a guy. I know a guy. I know a guy. I know somebody to be able to connect you to, because I've been in this thing and in this community building practice for so long. So that's how it's everything that we do is really about the community that we build and that we support.
Zachary, it sounds like you have something that you want to share as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you were saying that, it's that old saying they say that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go with others, And that's a fact, because now more than ever with the new administration coming in, we as a community need to pull together.
Yes.
We really, truly do need each other. We need each other's support. And so but it got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I know with me, we created with my platform, I think we had 35 women on the platform, and each of the women have been put into a networking group. And we really do do our best to support each other, because what happens is it takes us out of survival mode. It's like if I know I got people who want to purchase my product and who's going to go to this event, who's going to go upload my flyer and do such and such, you get more time to create and actually be great than for you to be worried about the other things of, oh my God, I'm going to pay my rent this month. So we're really just doing that, just trying to build a solid community. So far, I think it's about 65 women in but they are women from all across the city. We got actresses, doctors, lawyers, event planners. We're about to have you in there now. So we got some really amazing women in this group, in this community.
Wow. Marquise, do you want to share something? Because Keeping It a Bean, it seems like it's really all about the community.
Right. Yeah. No, it's actually been super dope. Like, and it's also like the community that happens behind the scenes for me. I'm big on mentorship, so I go and volunteer up at the prison on State Road every other Thursday. Right. But then also with that, it's like I got a production assistant who's a current college student. And so he's just being able to learn and soak in all the information and be in a room with people as well. My audio producer, he came in and was just like, dog, I really love what you do. Can I just do your audio? A black woman in New York, she was like, your podcast helped me connect with my son in a very different kind of way because of how you speak to other black boys and black men. And so for her, she gifted me Keeping It a Bean styled mugs, right? And so with that kind of stuff, I had realized like community comes in different forms and the resources we share. And I kind of take a mutual aid approach to it of just like, what resources can we give each other if it's not monetary? And can we show up in that kind of way? So I would try to show people like some people just want emotional resources. Some people need mental resources. Some people need physical resources. But if we're able to fully identify what people need, that's how it goes. And so I was like, in the beginning, I'll tell you, I was hard-headed. I'm like, no, I'm a Virgo. My vision's my vision, my vision, my vision. But in reality, something great cannot be achieved alone. And so for me, I had to learn really quickly, like, no, I cannot be the producer and the editor and the talent and this and the person. I can't do all of it. And so especially as I'm like expanding and wanting to scale, I can't do this by myself. Right. And so I really learned like community is going to keep me humble, but it's also going to keep me a student because I don't got to be the expert in every single thing. I would like to be, but the reality is my capacity does not allow me to do that. And so community keeps me humble. Community keeps me grounded. Community keeps me as a student.
Well, that's a good segue right to you, Will, because you are actually dealing with the community coming in and looking for those resources. So how do you help them and how do they help you?
So the Business Center is a nonprofit. And we, the community is woven into the business model. With a nonprofit, you have to, you have to be involved. You have to be boots on the ground. You have to be in every event. You always have to be there. So that's into the business model of our organization. So one of the things that we do is we actually go into schools and we have programs for them. We also have programs for individuals who are just trying to start their business and they have a business plan. We have business planning courses. We actually have a program where you go through the courses, and at the end of the course, there's like a Shark Tank style, like a presentation, and there's investors there, and there's people that want to be involved in your business and help your business grow. Also, to add to some of the points here. I know I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but you talk about how you couldn't be in every, you can't play every role in your business. Yes, Marquise, sorry about that. I know everything, the coffee, I heard your story, I just couldn't remember the name. But, one of the things I always say is you have to come to a point where you start firing yourself from certain positions and you start putting people in, and that's just how I put it.
You're really loud. Wow.
We gotta head to a break, but we will be right back with more from the 8th Annual Empowerment Experience and the panel and the esteemed panelists that we have that will continue this discussion about entrepreneurship when we return on Word.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, bringing joy and power to the people for 20 years.
And we are back at the Empowerment Experience, the 8th Annual Empowerment Experience. here on WURD. We want to encourage you to come on down to 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue. That is the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church. We will be here broadcasting live until 4 p.m. And I can tell you, aside from the renowned, I'm going to call them renowned entrepreneurs that we have on our panel today, we also have a room full of Black-owned businesses. You can come down and get everything from artwork to clothing to services and various businesses that are here today. So we want to invite you to come down and check us out and check out and support these amazing Black-owned businesses. Now we are continuing our panel, The Entrepreneur's Journey from Hustle to Power. And you know, Joss, I want to start with you coming back. Your business is about storytelling, and it's about empathy-based storytelling. What is the power for you as an entrepreneur in story?
So it's interesting that you asked me that question. And thinking about community first, you know, it's very easy for me to credit the community for the kinds of content I can capture. One of the questions we tend to ask at Love Now Media is, when was the last time you witnessed an act of love? And that makes great stories. But I have been watching this Reiki practitioner right here in the corner for the last 10 minutes. And I have just seen an act of love playing out. I watched this woman touch her sister's knees and put energy on her. I watched her just like take her hand, and just the beauty in that. These are stories we don't see in the media, you know, so I have the privilege and honor of having an eye for things like that, like what's going on over here, and taking that lens out into our community and elevating Black stories like that. And so I think that gives a different kind of power to a media platform.
Absolutely. Zachary, you were telling us a little bit about your story, coming from someone who was doing well, had an education, and then fell prey to some challenges. Tell us about that and how that story has propelled your business.
Depression, mental health. I think those are things that us as men, we really need to take into consideration. A lot of times we try to do so much and put the world on our shoulders, and we're trying to shoulder it all, but we really need help. And that cry for help is a lot different than the women cry for help. Our cry for help is, I could do more, and we want to put ourselves in some really compromising situations. Because of my poor decision, it cost me I'm close to 8 years away from my little girl. So when I left, my little girl was 3. I came home, she was turning 11. So, and also in that time period, I lost my brother to pancreatic cancer. So it was so much that you lose a whole lot more than when you go to jail. But I also want to talk about like the entrepreneurial side about that is, a lot of brothers, when they get into these situations, they ran the streets for so long, they come home, they don't want to get a regular job. But let me say that when you work in that mess hall, I think my check for 2 weeks was $6 and that was a 40-hour work week. So I tell brother, like, if you could work in that type of situation for $6, you should be able to come home and be able to get a job to support you and your family. And I also was afraid that this entrepreneur's experience shouldn't be romanticized. There's a lot to go with it. There's a lot. My mother is in the room with me. She has been going through the journey with me as much as I have.
Shout out to moms out there. Let's applaud her.
So it's like, so you got to have so much in place, man. So it's really rough. So, you know, I just want to encourage any brother that is possibly, if you're on the brink of coming home, study as much as you possibly can, get as much knowledge, link up with as many good people as you possibly can, because that's going to be your key to survival.
Tanya, I know there's a story in Mom, Your Business. So tell us what your story is and how that has helped your business grow.
Well, as I said, you know, I really started as an entrepreneur because I wanted, like Josh, to tell stories, you know, through books, right? The two things that I said I was never going to do when I was in college at Temple getting my journalism degree was I wasn't going to write books and I wasn't going to write for newspapers. And I ended up doing both. You know, I will always thank Jerry Mondesire because he gave me my first opportunity as a reporter while I was in my senior year at Temple University. And I said, I can't do this. He said, oh no, you'll be all right. And he just sent me what the story was. And so what I learned from that experience was that journalism as a newspaper reporter made me a disciplined writer. And then I could apply the creativity when I was writing books. And even though they were motivational and, those type of books, it was really about telling the stories in those books and telling those stories of our experiences that I was having as a mentor and working with women who were, having challenges with their families or coming out of abusive relationships or overcoming addiction, and telling those stories, and how I lost my house and how, I lost my grandmother, and telling those stories and how they became therapeutic for allowing me to continue to grow and to mature. And so even now in entrepreneurship, that the story is probably the most important thing that an entrepreneur can do that can lead to growth, right? It is, I have a founder now who makes cookies, and we want to tell that story of nostalgia because she has cookies that are peanut butter and jelly, and she has cookies that are sweet potato, but she started because she wanted her children to have an all natural dessert. That was the story. And so it's all about when you get into telling these stories, it is empowering, and it is a reflection of who you are as you continue to grow and develop as an entrepreneur.
Josh, you wanted to follow up on that?
I really appreciate hearing this story about the mom with the cookies, because I think that's another thing that is important to clarify about entrepreneurship is, yes, it's not for the faint of heart, right? Yeah. It's very, very hard. Yeah. Actually, it's virtually impossible to do it alone. But I also think everyone doesn't have to be a billionaire. Some people, when you say entrepreneurship, they're thinking, okay, I got to start this big business and I have to make millions of dollars in order to do all these. And it's like, no, you could be an entrepreneur by starting your cookie business and figuring out how to make an extra $100 a month or whatever to take your kids to a movie. You can be an entrepreneur with a full-time job.
That's right.
You don't have to quit your job and find yourself in poverty trying to, figure out how to make enough money to pay your mortgage. There's a balance to it. So I think it's really important, to offer that transparency, because I do think a lot of entrepreneurs can find themselves in depression and really suffering, like not having the resources they need if they don't have a community of folks to tap into, and also if they don't have a small idea that they can scale up.
Yeah. And can I just add one more thing real quick? Because Zach used the right word, which was romanticized. Folks have been sitting home watching Shark Tank and think that's real. And it's not. The majority of women, Black women in particular, start a business out of a need. They had to pay a bill. They had to get a car fixed. They had to pay for a prom dress. They had to stop their lights from getting cut off. That was how they started that business. And they didn't see it as a business. They saw it as, I got a need and I need to find a way to be able to pay this bill or do this thing. And so to Josh's point, we have to this romanticize, and it's just not reality.
Yeah, see, Will and Marquise both have something to say, because now we're getting into the nitty gritty, which is how do you fund a business? Go ahead, Will.
So one of the things I wanted to say was, we think that it has to be this big event that happens to how you obtain a success, and really it's everyday small decisions. So that just making a couple $100 a week. Well, if you take $100 of that, and say you make $100 a day, so or 5 days a week, so you make $500 a week. You take 100 of those $500, you put it into like an investment account, like a dividend fund or something like that. Now you have non-operating income, because that fund is growing. As you put more money into it, that's called dollar cost averaging. So you're putting money into that account, it's growing, and you're doing your business, so you can make an operational income and non-operational income. And so now you're growing in two different areas. So what I would say is that small everyday decision, or that monthly decision, can help you obtain success, and you'll have a higher percentage of obtaining it that way than getting a windfall of money and then obtaining success through some some big break.
I love that. I love the idea that, as you said, it is small, everyday decisions that make the difference. Marquise, I know you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, because like I struggled at first with calling myself an entrepreneur. So I was just like, I ain't doing no entrepreneur stuff. I'm a creative. But in reality, I'm just like, no, I actually make money from my podcast now. Right? Like, it took 7 years, but I got there.
The tax folks will let you know very quickly.
Okay.
You are a business
Yeah,
partner.
so yes, because I was like, I ain't got no LLC, I ain't none of that stuff. So like for me, it took me a little bit to like fully lean into the facts of like I was learning these things. But when it came to the granular stuff, I was like, how many hours a week am I dedicating to this thing? And so for me, as a teacher, I had to do backwards design. I had to essentially lesson plan this thing out. So that's how my brain works when I think around like, what goal am I trying to reach? Now, how do I work backwards to like measure the success and then know if I need to pivot or not? And so what I had realized was like, all right, I got to document how long does pre-production take? How long does production take? Now I'm editing. How much time am I spending on social media to market this thing? How am I going to start making money? Which I tell people all the time, podcasting doesn't make you money. It's the things around podcasting that makes you money. So like getting the ad space or doing influencer work or doing talks and panels and stuff like that. That's what funds my stuff. And so for me, I was like, cool, I made enough within the last 4 or 5 months of doing some political work to be able to actually launch Leroy. So I had to take from what I was doing for my podcast in order to start doing that. I used to sell mugs. And so I'm just like, cool. And it's like, good morning to Black people and Black people only. Replace Black people with another word, but we out here. So for me, I was just like, all right, I know that this takes a amount of money now that I'm dealing with instead of like using my Patreon where people can donate and invest their money into me, now people are going to buy a product from me. And that's when I had to realize, I was like, okay, I need to be a lot more responsible, because one thing about me, I don't like playing with people's money. And so I was just like, cool, how much time does this take? And as I began to say, cool, now I want to do this coffee thing, now I have to relearn like how much time is going to be invested. So when you break it down to an hourly type situation, you might realize like, oh, not only am I working 40 hours in my day job, but now I have another 30 hours a week that I'm putting into this thing that I love. And it's a work of passion, but it does also recognize it's going to get exhausting at some point in time. This thing doesn't feel linear. Success, if you don't have those small wins, you'll burn out, which is why for me, I ground myself in a why am I doing this, and thinking around like, what is my social impact? So anytime I'm like, get to the money, get to the money, get to the money. No, actually, how does each of my businesses essentially fund into each other? So I had to start looking at my hobbies as I began to make money as like, no, I am now launching a new business or a project plan. So how much time is this actually going to take? So for the practical skills of just like breaking down your hourly stuff, that'll help you kind of manage your mental health, but also manage like expectations, because I believe in a soft life. I'm going to try and achieve it as soon as possible.
But also manage what you're making. It sounds like that you have to break it down into those terms of how you should be getting paid, even if you're paying yourself based on the output, because that's something important to recognize. Josh, you had a follow-up on that?
Yeah, I think for me, things really changed for me when I started to understand the difference between operating a service business and operating a product business. And so I think, particularly as a media maker, for years, I mean, like 15 years, I was like a filmmaker and videographer who was making films for hire. So that meant in order for me to actually make money, I had to be engaging in the act of a service, which meant if I was sick or if I was unable to show up, or if, there were two opportunities at once, then I wasn't able to make money. And so I realized that the service model alone was not sustainable. So I started to have to think about the media, one, as product media, product focused media, but then I had to figure out, how do you sell the product before you make it? And I think that is the breakthrough. That's when the breakthrough happens, is when you get the money or you get a commitment for the money before you actually make the thing. For me, that it was when my entrepreneurship journey changed from me being a hustler to feeling actually like an entrepreneur. I get to take the time to design a product, to design in my hours, my labor hours, they call it, COGS, the cost of goods sold. I get to put all of that in my budget, right? And I get to pitch that to someone who is interested in purchasing that product or putting a grant behind that product before I make the product. And that was when the game changed.
Joss, once again, you've helped segue. You said grants. And Tanya, I wanted to ask you, because in one of your businesses, that is what you do. You help fund other businesses. So what are some financial sourcing that people are overlooking? What are some programs and what are some ways to look for funds that maybe people don't recognize?
Marquise is like, let me hear, give me the deets.
I'm a learner. Let's go.
One thing, and we were talking again, I was talking to a vendor earlier about this. We've been around for 7 years and we've never received funding from the state of Pennsylvania, right? But we've sustained, right? One area that entrepreneurs have to, and we saw a lot of this during COVID, was pitch competitions. We saw a lot of, and again, back to the stories, but you got to be able to tell your story effectively in order to win pitch competitions. And so pitch competitions is one way. Another way is community development finance institutions, or CDFIs. A CDFI is not a bank, but they offer loan products that are sometimes 0% interest, sometimes forgivable interest. And taking advantage of those, and they're looking at your character more so than your collateral. And so a lot of folks, and there are tons of them. We have a relationship with Neighborhood Progress Fund, which is located in North Philadelphia. They helped us fund the renovations at our co-working space that's at 1913 West Lehigh Avenue. There's Vested In, which is out on West Philly. There's the Enterprise Center. There's Women's Opportunities Resource Center. I could go on and on. There's tons of them throughout the city of Philadelphia that are able to do that. But one thing I tell founders all the time, the best source of capital is revenue. That is the best source of capital. And so you can grow your revenue. And that's one of the things we try to help founders do, is develop strategies for how you can grow your revenue, right? And how you can grow your revenue without adding costs. Because if you borrow, you're increasing your debt in some way, right? And so those are some of the ways that we do. Then there's opportunities like today, having an opportunity to vend and being able to take your business to market and go out and really grind and just really, being out there. But again, I would really say, there are tons of grants. The city of Philadelphia has a program where you can actually get a grant or you can get a loan from one of the CDFIs, and the city will match it up to $15,000, right? And so there are tons of things that are available through PDIC. I think I'm saying that right. PDIC. There are other organizations out here that have money to be able to help you to grow your business. You just got to do the work.
Well, Will, I know you want to piggyback off of that because this is literally what you do at the business center. So what are some of the sourcing for funds that people might be overlooking?
So there's SBA grants, the Small Business Administration, I believe. So they have grants. Also, the Business Center, we partner with a lot of companies, banks. And so we're always looking for someone to partner with so that we can allocate these resources or to our members. So say we have someone who has a specific need. We have all types of resources. So we have some people that may need an accountant. Some people may need, whatever it is that they need, we'll find that for them. And we have relationships that we have built with other banks. So that's one of the things that we personally have. But I believe a lot of the stuff has already been said. Vested In, A lot of these different CDFIs, they're great, and I've used them myself. So one of the things that you can do is definitely look them up. And I believe you said you're part of your business that you help connect them?
Yeah, and then the city has other programs too with the storefront improvement grant. There is also that fix your business facade out the front, and then there's the in-store grant. That's another grant for the inside of your building. So there are a lot of different resources when folks do the work.
Yeah, the website there's Grant Select, where you can actually look up grants in your specific area.
Let's say that again a little louder.
Grant Select.
Got it. Is it .com or .org?
Is it .org? Actually, what I do is I go through the Philadelphia library.
Google it, or
Yeah.
you can come to the business center and
Yeah.
we can find out what's going on
I
there.
get my library card and I use it.
Listen, for real. Josh, I want to start with you and then talk to everyone about this, because I feel like this is never part of the discussion about entrepreneurship. You said before, entrepreneurship is hard. It's difficult. It's almost impossible. So in order for you to sustain a business, how do you find the balance in order to keep going? Because everything comes back when you are the creator and the founder of a business to you.
I have a very intense wellness practice. I have a very supportive family. I do want to just call my uncle's name, John David Jenkins Jr. He passed in 2020. Today would be his birthday, and he was like my backbone. Every time I had a bright idea, he encouraged me to keep going. There were a few times when I was like, whoops, it's the first of the month and I don't know how I'm gonna make this work until the 15th. He would write me a check and give me the opportunity to pay him back. So having family who is invested, mentally, emotionally, and supportive, I think is very important. And again, I think it could be impossible to do it if you don't have either a community that you cultivated to support you, or family members who are just like, I understand what it is you're doing and I'm behind you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to help to make a space. I will say that I have a meditation practice, for myself. There's a meditation that I tend to teach people in public, but this is radio, so I'm not going to take up that airtime. But, I have to stay grounded. I have to be in tune with what's happening in my body, because if I'm just running and going and trying to do the next thing, without taking my wellness, my mental health, my physical health into consideration, then I'm not doing the work that I'm setting out to do. So I think taking that time, I did 8 years of therapy to deal with some of my childhood stuff, so all of that has helped me to show up vibrantly and do this work that is rooted in love and empathy.
Marquise?
Oh, look, I'm gonna be selfish with my time too. No, so I'm a morning person in solitude, so I preface it with that. But for me, I like to get up early in order to practice my 10-10-10 rule. So my 10-10-10 rule is like 10 minutes of drinking coffee and catching up on news, 10 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of stretching. But it's the 30 minutes I get to myself no matter what every single day before the world needs me. And so for me, I'm like, cool, here's what I can do, because I work in service. I work in service of children, right? And so I understand they're going to need me to, hey, can you look over this? Can you help me with this? Can you get me to college? Can you do this? Blah, 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 right? That's my job. And so for me, I realized in balancing and finding that balance early with education, it was an easy transferable skill to take over to doing some more like this stuff in entrepreneurship. And so, especially in that space, I also give myself measurable goals. I'm really big on that, because I'm just like, cool, I got the logo done. Great. I got this location secured. Great. I have these people coming. Great. I have this. And so if you don't have those small wins, it could feel like you're waiting an eternity to do this. 8 years it took me to finally get some huge partnership deals for my show. So I was able to be patient, but I also understood my why would always keep me grounded, and my 10-10-10 rule is going to definitely keep me grounded.
Thank you, Tanya.
I love that 10-10-10 rule. I'm a morning person as well. So for me, it's prayer. I got to start the day with it and end the day with it. But I've been reading a book called Redeeming Your Time. If anyone is interested, it's called Redeeming Your Time by Jordan Rayner. And it's an excellent book. And one of the things I took away from that was learning to put up the electronic devices. Putting them up and just cutting them off, putting them up. And then the mornings is really that time. And like Josh, I have some wellness goals and some wellness practices, whether that's a massage once a month, whether it's just going to the salon and sitting in solitude with the book. Those are all, and I read 10 pages of a book at least once a day too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanya. Zachary.
So I'm still trying to get my time management together. So, but one of the things that I learned and with my podcast is that they say comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yes.
I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we got the desire to become entrepreneurs, but we'll look at you, and try to do what you do. So one of the things that I've just learned is just to embrace your individual walk. You know, if I start making cookies a day, I'm terrible at it. You know, it's like, but I'm a good videographer. I'm a good podcaster, you know, so that was one of the things. And also what kind of off of that is also timing, just understanding that everything will happen in its proper timing. I'm going to put this square piece in this round hole one way or another. And I try to force feed things, but then I just realized, like, you know what? I don't want to get too spiritual, but they say, let go and let God. And I'm realizing that as I tried to take that deep breath, that let go was hard for me. I struggle with that. But as I tried to let go, I realized that things are falling into place more than what I was doing before. I was working with a lot of people doing podcasting. And then when I finally was like, you know what? I don't got all the resources, but I'm going to make it work. And I set the women in my podcast, and it just grew, and it's continuously is growing. And I'm here as a reflection of them because it was them that got me here.
Last but not least, Will Williams.
Okay, so what I would say is I would have to piggyback off everybody because they all have great ideas. One is to have a plan. I think Marquise, you said the 10-10-10. So that's a plan that works for him. And we all should have our own independent plan. It may be Marquise's plan. It may be someone else's plan. So have a plan and protect your time. And third is we all need recovery time. You can't just keep burning. You need recovery time. You need a time to heal. I heard meditation. I'd say do all of it. Go to the gym, sleep as much as you can. Also therapy. Zach said therapy. For businesses, most successful businesses, even if you have in a corporation, you get into the corporate, they give you a therapist called executive coach. And he gets like $350 an hour. And he's coaching you because you can't let the things in your head get in the way of your performance.
Gotcha. Well, I believe that we have to end this amazing panel, Entrepreneur's Journey from Hustle to Power. Will Williams, Zachary King, Tanya Morris, Marquise Devon Richard, Josh Duncan, I say thank you so much for joining us here today at the Empowerment Experience. We truly appreciate your expertise. Do we have time to let everyone say where we can find them? Quickly, everyone down the line, where can we find you? Starting with John.
Okay, you can go to lovenowmedia.com and you can subscribe to our magazine and follow us on YouTube, please. Thank you.
Yep, I am really simple. Marquise Davon across all social media. MarquisDavon.
Mom Your Business, all one word, all socials. MOMYOURBUSINESS.
The website is I Am the Prize Media, and you go to YouTube to find the podcast at I Am the Prize Media as well.
So the bizcenter.com. So it's the BIZCTR.com.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. The 8th Annual Empowerment Experience. We are broadcasting live on Word till 4 p.m. Come on down to the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue, where you can see in person right here the power a Black-owned business. We will be right back with more on WURD.